Hello? Hello, hello? Hello, everybody? What's up, everybody? Guess who was not prepared? Me. I got distracted, and then I was like, dip. Stream starts soon, and I didn't have any of my beverages ready. Run downstairs, grab my beverages as fast as I can, run back up. But you all gotta see my look at how great this starting soon screen is. I am so proud of it. I had an idea of like jazzing it up so it looked a little bit nicer, and I animated this. I knew exactly how I wanted it to look, and it came out perfectly. And it looks so cute. A little bit of motion is so cute on it. I love it so much. I keep just like, because I got posted about it on Twitter, I keep just like looking at it. It's so like nice and soothing with this motion. Came out amazingly. So, out of breath, running back up and down the stairs all the time. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. How you all doing? It's a gray, rainy morning for me here. So hello everybody. So if you saw the title, I started writing my very own magical girl story, which is so exciting. It's one I had been thinking about for a couple of months now, maybe like 6 months by now, and I wasn't sure how I wanted to present the story, or if it was even one that I wanted to commit to, like, fleshing out and everything. But then I was like, you know what? I do. Let's give it a try. And so I started writing, and I finished chapter 1, and the thing that made me so distracted that I had to, like, run around and get my beverages was because I was working on chapter 2. So, I was thinking of when I finish maybe the first few chapters, I'll do a little, like an audiobook type deal, kind of like how I did with my Ruby Volume 9 fanfiction, but I'll just like read out the first few chapters for you all here as like a little teaser of what to expect with the story and characters, and maybe I'll do like an animatic behind it to like storyboard the basic beats of what everything would look like. But I don't know, I'm figuring it out still. But yeah, I was working on it, and I wrote my characters, and within the first few pages, I was like, oh no, I love them all. So, that's what I've been up to lately. Lots of creative things going around. I've decided, so I've been kind of keeping up. Where can we read it? I haven't posted it anywhere yet, so... I haven't done an audiobook officially, but I did do, it was basically like an audiobook when I did my Volume 9 pre-write fanfiction thing. So, I would do audiobooks if I could. I think you have to audition for them, and I don't know if I necessarily have a great voice for audiobooking. The beginning of an audiobook series? You know it. Why not? Sure. I found out, like, apparently all of the Hunger Games is, like, audiobook is on Spotify for free, apparently. I didn't super like those books, so... But it was neat to learn. It's like when Funimation put, like, all of Naruto, Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, like, they posted all of that for free on YouTube for people to watch. I like it when people do that. Like, just, this is old, and you all enjoy it. Here it is for free, except for, like, some ad revenue, you know? What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so I've been kinda keeping up with Ruby. Like, I've been reading, like, Tumblr posts and Twitter posts and Reddit threads about Volume 9, you know. I've seen clips here and there, and I've decided when the season is over, this volume, because I found out there's only 10 episodes, this volume? Is that correct? Like, I think there's only 10 episodes. That's a short volume for Ruby. If it weren't for twins, if you weren't twins, where magical girls would be like a yin and yang kind of thing, or would it be like polar opposites? I don't know. See, that's always a cute gimmick to work with for like designing characters, but in real life it doesn't always work out that way, I guess, because that's the thing, we're so similar in so many ways, but also so different in so many ways. So it's kind of like a wombo combo of both. So yeah, there's like gonna be only 10 episodes of Volume 9, I think. So when it finishes, I'm going to do a week-long watch party with you all. I've decided to do that. So what I'll do is I won't play any of the audio, and I'll like show enough of the video so you see what I'm seeing, but I'm gonna cover it up so it doesn't get like hit with a copyright strike or anything. But yeah, we'll do like a week-long watch-along party where I can voice my thoughts and opinions about Volume 9 as we watch it together. And I figured the funnest way to do that would be to not engage in anything about the last 5 episodes. So like it's halfway through, and I know the basic beats of what kind of has happened within the first 5 episodes. So I figure for the second half, I will just avoid it, and then we'll watch it all together, and I'll be able to get my real reactions out there. Yeah, it's on Crunchyroll. I'll get the free Crunchyroll, free trial, because, I'm not paying for it. Will Rambo be there? No, probably not. I don't think he has any interest in watching the show. But yeah, I think it'll be fun. I'm excited. I think it's gonna be a fun, exciting thing, and I can't wait to, like, get to that, you know? So, but that means the hard part is not, like, looking up a bunch of things in the weeks leading up to it, which is always the thing. That's the fun part, because you want to engage with things, and I want to know what's happening, and I'm curious what other people are talking about. But if I'm going to avoid spoilers, I'll have to avoid all of the things I usually look up, so I will just have to sit around and wait. Find something else to do with my time, I guess. What powers do you have? What darker magical elements will be involved? With what? With, like, me, personally? Or with the story I'm writing? With the story I'm writing, it will be a darker story, eventually, down the road. There's a specific reason why. I'm touching on a very specific theme with the story. I won't give spoilers yet, but once you know what the theme is, then it's naturally to be like, oh yes, there's a reason why there's darker elements tied to this specific theme. Do you want spoilers? I can't tell you what the theme is, I guess. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Because I've seen a lot of foggy memory, great YouTube, by the way. I've seen their edits back in the day. I stopped watching a lot of those, like Ruby crack edits, like those ones. I stopped watching them specifically because I didn't want to steal ideas from them. I was thinking about this. A surprisingly large amount of what I do is thinking of memes to put into my reviews. And I didn't want to steal, like, jokes and meme ideas from other people, so I stopped watching them. So if I did end up doing it, it would be an accident. Like, it would just be, like, we both had the same idea, rather than me just, like, inadvertently coming up with the same thing because I saw it from someone else already, you know? You can guess? Yeah, go ahead, Excalibur. Go ahead and guess. Thoughts on Fixing Ruby so far? I'm, like, 2 episodes behind. I'm loving it. I think it's great. I think it's a little slow, and I understand why. It's because we're spending more time on, like, talking with characters and stuff, which I think is great, especially when you're aiming for a 20 episode, which is a bit more common with Western shows to have more than 12 episodes. I think some things could have been shortened, but I understand why we didn't, because we're spending more time on the characters, which makes sense, which is always the thing that Ruby never spends any time on. So I'm enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun. I keep meaning to watch the, like the first viewings and stuff, the live viewings, and every single time I'm like, I'm gonna do it this time. I'll do it. And then every single time, I forget to check Discord to see, like, the times it happens, and the next time I get on Discord, it's way too late. And I'm like, damn it! I've missed it again! Fuck! Judgmental critter. Professional name creator. That's me. That's what I do. Alright, Excalibur, what's your guesses? Death, murder, depression? Great. Great guesses. All wrong, but great guesses. Ooh, corruption within the government? Guess who almost hit that nail on the head? Well done, Excalibur. You're close. It's military and government. But yes, that is the themes, which makes sense. Like, that's why, obviously, a story that tackles the military and the government will have darker themes tied to it. No matter how funny you try to be. I've watched MASH. I watched a lot of MASH growing up. I love MASH. Even that one, despite being a comedy, got really dark and creepy at times, Cinesloth, did I hear that right? You said you love it? Is it, dare I say, good? I think all fanfiction is good to some degree, because it's like a passion project. And that's all Fixing Ruby is. When people get so, like, I don't know, you don't get a prize, but you were so close, Excalibur, I'm proud of you. People get so, like, up in arms. It's specifically, like with Ruby fandom. They get so up in arms over the concept of fan fiction. And I got comments recently, and it was like, you're writing a pre-write before the volume even came out? How arrogant. And I'm like, what about this is arrogant? I didn't even say mine is better, but I just say mine is different and I'm doing the thing I want to do. How is that arrogant? It's the idea that writing a fanfiction about Ruby is somehow some arrogant, you're so arrogant type deal. It's so weird, because imagine if any other fandom worked that way, Like, there are so many, like random fandom off the top of my head. Pokemon, You dare think you can write better than the anime has written for Ash and his misadventures? How dare you? You're so arrogant. It's like, no wonder, and people sit there and go like, why is Ruby not doing too good? As they actively discredit people and, like, attack people for engaging in common fandom behavior. I made fan art. It's not the right fan art. You dare draw Blake with someone other than Yang? How dare you? Bah! Why does no one want to watch our show? Pre-write. Yeah. Fixing Ruby is good. I remember when the very first, Fixing Ruby for Volume 1 came out. Way back in the day, back when, Celtic Phoenix basically just, like, puppeteered, stock images of the characters around to, like, represent what was going on with the story. And I remember because I was so, like, enthralled with the idea of having Team Coffee be, like, pseudo, mentors for Team Ruby. And I'm like, that makes so much sense. That's so smart. And that's really the only major change he made for Volume 1, And I'm like, that's so fun. That's such an interesting way to have more characters interacting and learning, And ever since then, I'm like, yeah, Fixing Ruby! And yeah, I recently joined the Sketchy Huntsman, which was awesome and cool. What are your thoughts on the pitch trailer? I did watch it. I did finally get around to watching it. I think it was good. I love the lighting effects on it. I have nothing much else to say. It was good choreography and stuff. There was one thing that did feel weird. I think it was their hands. But hands are so hard to animate in the first place. How dare you have fun, Ruby fandom. For real. For reals. There's if you're not having fun the way I have fun, then you're having the wrong kind of fun. And we're mad at you about it. Blake with Ren, that was a weird one. Early Ruby ships were so much more interesting. Because, they weren't as developed. And so the idea of, shipping random people together, that really big shipping chart that happened. Of just mostly puns, but it was happening because, what if Nora was with Jean? Or whatever, so weird random ones. Nora and Pyrrha. And so, like, back then, it was so interesting. You would see all kinds of, like, fan fiction and fan art of weird, wacky ships, and nowadays, it's, like, just Blake and Yang, and, like, maybe Ruby and Weiss, but no one, engages with it anymore, because it's not fun to engage with the fandom. Oh, that reminds me, I saw Judgmental, the wrong fun critter. That's me. Thank you, Filano. I hope I said that right. I said it so confidently. I hope I said it right. Thank you so much. Sorry, I didn't get it. Someone made a Ruby fan animation or something like that? Yeah, there's a bunch of them. It's PTCH. Pronounced pitch, I believe. It should be one of the first things that pop up. They did an entry for my second animation contest, which was, it was the one where they animated Lionheart fighting Crow. It was really cool. And I was keeping Combat Ready Studios, if I remember correctly. They made, like, an OC trailer recently, and it came out last week, I believe. Check it out. It's fun. I think it's really cool. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, this one person made a weird, wacky little video, and it was like, apparently, it's big Canon Seeker vibes from this person. And it was basically just like, being mad that I said that I had my, what went wrong video with Ruby. And I found it because I was looking on Reddit, and they were talking about it on Reddit, and it's just like, woof. This fandom is so weird sometimes. They're so weirdly, like connected to Rooster Teeth. Like, they're obsessed with the company. And the idea of people saying something wrong about their beloved company is so, like, horrid to them. That's so weird. No other, like, nothing else works that way, you know? It's just the Ruby community, from what I've seen. Crack ships are always fun to write because they force you to think about what would drag these characters together. It's true. And sometimes it's, like, weird things, like, they have the same hair color, you know? And that's what or like, they look cool together when you draw them. And that's always, like, the fun of crack ships. I love a good old-fashioned crack ship. Just wacky. I was looking at one because I was playing through, Pokemon Shield version yesterday. I've beaten 4 gyms. Yay. But I was looking up fan art of the gym leaders, and I got to Kabu, who's the fire-type gym leader from Galar, and I kept seeing fan art of him shipped with Raihan, who's the dragon-type gym leader, and I'm like, what is an interesting ship dynamic, I guess. Like, I don't know, for some reason this one must have just went off, because I saw a bunch of fan art, and I was like, what a weird combo, but okay. I'm here for it. Am I the only one who still wants to see Ren and Ruby have a sibling relationship from Death and Depression? That's not a bad idea. I do think there is untapped potential of the characters expressing their thoughts around death. Because it's something I would speculate it on a lot. Because during Volume, it was specifically the Jean is big, angry, sad all the time phase of Ruby. For volumes like 4, 5, and 6. And a lot of the discussion I had was, why is Jean the special center of attention baby in these moments? And I was like, well, let's think about it. Everyone else is used to death, you know? Ruby lost Summer, and so she probably... And she doesn't ever talk about Summer. She probably just, like, is the kind of person to sort of, like, internally battle that, but externally, like, try not to display, like, anything is wrong. You know, Nora and Ren are used to death, and they've lost everything, so they're used to handling it. Blake and Yang and Weiss, they've all dealt with it too, for, like, you know, their things. So I would imagine, like, Jean was handling it so poorly, because this was probably the first time he actually had a big death affect him. Like, even his grandfather might still be alive, you know, the one that like, he got his armor and sword from, you know? The one that was like a big hero or whatever, he might still be alive, and maybe that's why Jean handled Pyrrha's death so poorly, because he doesn't know how to process his emotions yet. Which is such an interesting thing to speculate on, and to discuss, but that's always the thing with Ruby. Like, speculation is so interesting. The actual show never, ever, ever, ever touches on any of those interesting things that we all are speculating about. Thinking about the stupid clip of the girls, like in like mist talking to their past selves. Think about Weiss being like, my grandfather and my father and meh, 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 meh. It made me think that the writers really just have no idea what to do with Weiss anymore. Really. Like, there are so many interesting things we could have done with Weiss, but the fact that they have not done anything with her character in years. It's been so long since Weiss has done anything. Since she's been an interesting, integral character to anything, you know? It's just then we go back to volume 2 where she's like, I want to make a better name for the Schnee family. Babe, Atlas sank. I don't think anyone gives a fuck about what your last name is anymore, okay? She doesn't even know that her dad's dead, probably. She doesn't know what happened to Winter. Like, she knows Winter's the maiden, she saw that. But, like, she has no idea where her family is. I don't think anyone cares about what your last name is when you're trying to, like, fight an evil demon immortal witch lady, okay? Just we have nothing to do with this character. It's so sad. Weiss used to be so cool and so interesting, and they've just done nothing with her in years. What do I think of love potion episodes? I think they're boring, you know, because it's always so temporary. And also, the idea of, like, a love potion is so, like, sketchy and immoral, you know? I think it's, as, like, a fanfiction trope, I think it's fine, but, just let me drink my many beverages, tea and coffee, you know? Question, where did Faunas culture come from? Because I know there was never, and they've never, like, no one has a culture, despite spending so much time, like, thinking about not only the environments, but having whole, like World of Remnants, talking about the different kingdoms and insisting they all have their own really unique cultures. Faunas never had one, and that none of that is ever displayed in the show. Faunas culture. What? What do Faunas do that people don't do, that isn't a part of their, like, biology, you know? That is something that could be considered cultural. Like, nothing we've seen from Menagerie or any Faunas character implies they have something, like, even something small, like, oh, when we turn, like, 13, we have, like, a quinceañera, basically. Like that, tiny, easy, something we would never see in the actual show. But even that is not ever a thing in Ruby proper. Like, yeah, Menagerie is there, but it doesn't have a culture, it just has an environment. Like, nothing, like, they don't wear specific clothes, you know? We could see, like, they're wearing t-shirts and shorts, but also Blake and Sun are walking around in their battle gear and no one bats an eye, and some people are wearing, like skirts and whatever. Like, there's no clothing culture. They don't have food culture. They're just eating the same unseen slop that everyone always eats. There's nothing, like, about the way they interact with each other. There's just buildings. And they have certain animal traits. Nothing about what they actually do. Nothing about culture is actually ever addressed or thought about. Turbo Man, stop asking me. I already answered. I will not be doing a Chainsaw Man video anytime soon. Sorry. The fairy tale books gives us some info, but that's where you put the necessary world building. Yes, and it's always supplemental. That's what's Ruby, like, it's a classic quote from H. Bomber Guy. Ruby is a show that's really fun to write a wiki about. Thank you, Not All That Evil. You guys are so kind. You guys are so nice. Faunas do tend to be more violent. That's culture, I guess. But that's the only reason Faunas tend to be more violent is because they accidentally forgot to ever have any character who is a Faunus in the show who isn't in the White Fang. Who isn't a hunter or huntsman, huntress or huntsman, and or in the White Fang, where their whole thing is fighting people all the time. Like, ooh, yeah, there's non-violent humans like Saffron and Terra, or Ty, teachers and whatever. But we never even like Callie and Gira, like Blake's parents. They're still like part of the revolution and whatever. Though, of course, they feel more violent because those are the only characters they ever write for them. Atlas is completely destroyed, right? So doesn't that mean the Schnee name is essentially nothing now? Yeah, that too. Like, who cares? like, who would care at this point? There's nothing left. There is no, there's nothing left for your name to even be equated to. Are the mines still around? Is anyone still mining dust in the Schnee mines? What are some of my favorite fanfiction tropes? I don't read a lot of fanfiction. Nothing. I guess, modern AU stuff. I think that's fun. Especially if you have, Lord of the Rings, but they're modern. I think that's fun. I guess that's it. That's the only one I can really think of. I usually look for more fan art of that kind of thing. Not really fanfiction tropes. There was one, man, this is burned into my, this is a core memory, an Inside Out style core memory inside of me. There was this one fanfiction. It was during volume 3, and it was basically the fanfiction of Ruby, but the idea was it was all just a D&D group. And they were all, the story of the show was their D&D adventures. And Cinder was the DM. I remember that. And I remember thinking, that's cool. That's a lot of fun. I like that. But, I never, I don't know if they ever, updated it, and I never went back to it. But, I thought that was a lot of fun. I don't know if that's a trope, but that's one that I remember the most vividly in terms of, Ruby fanfiction. Thank you again, Fulano. Again, if I'm saying it wrong, tell me. Faunas are basically what if racism was done with white people and never makes actual parallels with racism in the real world, structural racism? It's true. I think it was a poor idea for Miles and Carrie to attempt to write a racism plotline in the first place. And that's such an easy thing to come to, think of when you're writing a fantasy world. It's Lord of the Rings. Let's go with something other than Lord of the Rings. Dragon Age. In Dragon Age, the elves are slaves. Wow, interesting. That's a cultural thing. So interesting. But if you don't know how to approach the topic, probably don't. Otherwise it can feel very stereotypy, very tropey, very mismanaged, very white savior-esque. And that's another thing, is people with animal features being discriminated against is not, a new idea. I've seen that somewhere before, Final Fantasy or something, I don't remember for sure. But, if you're gonna do it, there has to be reasons why. And they're because they have claws and teeth and whatever. And I'm yeah, but, Ruby, Yang explodes into fire. That's just as scary as claws and teeth, But whatever. I think the Faunas is I think they're well aware that they have completely fumbled the Faunas in every degree. And that's why they quietly try to ignore it. They don't talk about it anymore. It's don't just forget about it. It's fine. The racism is over. We fucked up, so we're not gonna talk about it anymore. The fundamental misunderstanding of their roles, their limitations, and what they represent in and out of universe. Yeah. Yes. I bet Volume 10 won't care that much about Atlas beyond some dialogue, and maybe even treat it as a good thing. Maybe. Volume 9 has gone so differently than what I expected it to be, that I have actually no idea what Volume 10 would be. I actually am very afraid they'll do a time skip, and we'll just skip over all the interesting things of what happens now that Atlas has fallen. What happens now that everyone's stuck in Vacuo. So interesting. I'm so afraid we're gonna actually have a time skip and jump over all of that. I am saying it correctly. Thank you, Fulano. Ruby had so much potential, but I'm glad I never got properly into it. And that's the thing. I did enjoy it so much for such a long time. And it's only very recently that they've actually dropped the ball. You know, the end of Volume 8, like if you watch my reviews for Volume 8, I was enjoying it a lot to begin with, and I was even completely on board for Volume 9. But I think even if, like, if Rooster Teeth wasn't a horrible company and hadn't of abused their animators, even if I still, like, really enjoyed Ruby as much as I had, I think Volume 9 would have killed off my interest. Everything I've seen from it is so bland and boring and bad. How old have to be a magical girl in your world? 18. So, because it's tied into concepts of the military. 18 is the youngest you can be, for America at least, that's the youngest you can be to join the military. And so that's the parallel, which the thing is, that's so young, really, if we think about it. That's honestly too young to be in the military, but that's what we're doing. They want to avoid Faunas racism, but they also keep bringing it up. They do. It's just like how they keep being like, stop making fun of Jean. Stop talking about Jean like he gets special treatment. He doesn't get special treatment, as they continually push Jean into front and center and gives him special treatment. Like they seem to flip-flop between wanting to quietly ignore their mistakes and also insisting on still pushing them into the center screen, maybe in an attempt to fix their problems. Volume 9 is the first volume without Ren, Nora, and Cinder. I know, it's so weird. It's so empty feeling. They might ignore the stuff anyways, even without a time skip. They might, honestly. That seems so par for the course with Ruby. It's so weird. Like, they seem so adamant against exploring their own concepts. Like, they set up the story. They did it. They set up the story. They set up these interesting plot threads. Why do they never talk about them? I have been thinking about what would be my Volume 10, the follow-up of my fanfiction. I've been starting to think about where I want that one to go, so maybe that'll happen before the end of the year. Sooner or later, you know. I won't have you all waiting for years and years on end, like Rooster Teeth did. Is Volume 10 in the works? It has not been officially greenlit. So, it is not in the works. I think they said it was written, but just because something's been written, that doesn't mean it's actually going to get made. They needed to see if Volume 9 was going to be good and get money. So I don't know how Volume 10 is working out, but I have very little hope or interest. Your OC story is a military magical girl? That's so epic. Thank you, Cinesloth. I'm excited. Ooh, I'm excited. I coming up with magical girls is so much fun. It's so fun. An insect faunus would be pretty interesting. Like Tyrion. Tyrion's a scorpion. And that's the thing, like, ooh, how interesting. Will we see more? No. Never. You want to see a spider kid? Nah. They won't. Internet proofing my characters? Yes. That is 100%. It's just like, hey, does this sound cool? Like, is this just like it sounded cool to me. Do you think it sounds cool? Hello, Alex Allen. I'm hyped for your Volume 10. Thanks, Anton. I'm excited too, because I was thinking about it. I was like, I know where I want to go. And now I just need to do the hard part of figuring out how I want to do it. But I have ideas. I'm figuring it out. That's the thing. I'll get my notebook out, and I'll do, like, a whole, like, 2-page spread of notes and, like, unreadable hieroglyphs to help me figure out how I want the story to flow together. Like how I did every time. They did have a spider girl, yes. Gwen. Nope. That's what I call her. Trifa. That was her name. Yeah. She didn't look like a spider, though. Like, that's so lame. That's so stupid and boring. If you have an animal, make them look like... Give her, like, 8 eyes. Give her, like, spider legs or something. I don't know. Just make her, like, face webby. You know, that's dumb. When you write when you write stories, what comes to you first? Story, theme, or characters? usually, like, theme, I guess. Yeah, like, the general direction of how I want the story to be. Like, what it's going to be about. And then I think about, well, if that's what it's going to be about, what kind of story do you tell to portray that concept? And then usually last for me is characters, because I think characters works best when they're fluid to go with the story that you're trying to tell. If you start with a character, then you're going to be very rigid with your character, and basically make the story around them, and I think that can sometimes work. You know, especially if you're doing something like Ruby, for example. If your story is, oh, I'm going to do something with Little Red Riding Hood, but it's going to be a twist. It's good to start with Little Red Riding Hood, and then think about your twist around. But when you think of your characters, think about what purpose are they telling in your story. You know? Like, stories exist because interesting things happened to certain people, whether they are interesting or not. This is always the thing I think of with Lord of the Rings. It is not a story about about a man named Frodo because, you know, he was destined to do something. It's a story about a man named Frodo because he happened to get the ring. Anyone else could have gotten the ring. It could have been one of the Saxville Bagginses, for all we knew, but it didn't. It gave it to Frodo, and that's why he's at the center of our story. We have an interesting story because an interesting thing happened, and this is the person who it happened to happen to. You know? And their personality is the interesting part beyond the story. You know? So, that it doesn't necessarily have to be, like, one-to-one with each other. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? Basically, be fluid. Be fun. Watch a lot of videos. Watch a lot of other people talk about their stories and story structure, because no two are going to be the same, and seeing what other people talk about in terms of coming up with their stories and their characters is one of the most interesting things about how you figure out how to develop your own story and characters. Do I prefer green or orange? Usually green. Green is my favorite color, but orange looks so nice with green, and browns, and reds. So yeah. Hot take, Ruby should have stayed a semi-episodic series with Beacon as the constant setting. I'm fine with the moving around the world, but I wish there was more purpose behind it. I do think it should have stayed semi-episodic for the most part. Because wandering around the world doing war things is so boring, you know? Hey Critter, I just want to say I love your content. You and your sister inspired me to make my own story with my own design characters. Hooray, JoJo King! That's so exciting! Thanks, cool! I hope you have fun with it. That's always the funnest part of a story, is like, coming up with it, you know? Also, Volume 9, Ruby just forgot with fighting without a weapon. I know, that's another thing. They keep, like backtracking on, like, development with these characters. Like, you had a whole volume where the whole point was Ruby needs to learn to fight without her weapon, even though arguably she could have already fought without her weapon. And now she's here without her weapon, and we're just, like, quietly forgetting about it. They also forget about her semblance constantly. Like, she'll be like, oh no, there's an enemy. I'll just normal run rather than speed run my ass away where I can carry anything with me and their weight doesn't affect me at all. Whatever. Hello Future Me has good videos. Which one's them? Yes, they do Korra videos and Avatar videos. Yes, they do. They have a lot of good stuff. That's another thing. Like, engaging with what other people have to say will help you figure out your own thoughts and stories, you know? Like, that's why I love, like, Jenny Nicholson, H-Bomber Guy, Folding Ideas, lots of them with, like, very long. Izzy is another one, Negative Legend. Like, I love their videos so much because they have such good things to say that's so smart and interesting, and it helps me understand things so that I can understand my own critical analysis, and that then makes me think critically about what I'm working on. You know? All these Fixing Ruby videos and original trailers make me want to write my own story. Yes, do it! Go for it. Do a wacky AU. That's the thing. Like if you don't like where the story went, do it yourself. Mine will be better with blackjack and hookers, you know? Do you all get that reference, that meme? You don't know anything about RWBY? You don't really need to. Like, it's so long, too. It's 9 volumes. That's a lot of volumes. That's 10 years. That's a long time for a show to be going. Like, I'm amazed it made it this long. The world of RWBY feels boring and needs a stronger aesthetic, like the Splatoon world, a cool post-apocalyptic world, or Pokemon. That's true. It feels very like baby's first fantasy. You know, like, this city is the one inspired by Japan. This city is desert. This city is snow. And then it'll be, like, really basic building blocks around it, but yeah, aesthetically, there's nothing really jumping out at you. like, that was the thing with the original, like, Beacon trailers. Judgmental Bender, that's me. It's, like with the red, white, black, and yellow trailers, they looked so distinct, so unique, so interesting. They had a very specific style, and it was specifically not only the brightness of the saturation for their colors, but also the silhouette theme that they were playing with. And they just dropped that immediately. The last time they did something like that was like when Clover died, they suddenly brought in a silhouette thing for that. And it was so weird because they haven't done that ever in like years. And even when they were in Beacon, they weren't really doing it much either, you know? So they had such an interesting thing, and then they immediately forgot it. And they moved over to Maya, and then they like lost all the color. And people give, like, the argument of, oh, it's supposed to be a darker, more serious story, so it's not as saturated and bright. You don't just get to decide to completely change the aesthetics of your show because you decided to go in a different direction. Like, that's kind of the fun of, like, Madoka Magica, for example. Spoilers. Spoilers for Madoka Magica. Be careful. Here I go. With, like, it presents itself as, like, a typical magical girl story, and then, after episode 3, it is a dark, scary, you know, it covers more serious topics. And it doesn't change its art style all of a sudden. It's still that bright, saturated, intense colors. They just made it, like, that was part of the interesting thing, is that it has this aesthetic, but it's going with, a switch up on how it's addressing the topics of the story. That's part of the fun. You don't get to just decide, oh, we're going in a darker direction. So, and everyone has lost all of the color in their clothes and hair. Cool, great. Judgmental Critter, 9 years with the war as its setting and nothing ever really happens. Yeah. Yes, 10 years of writing and RT has learned nothing about writing while writing their scripts. I know. It's so weird. Like, how still amateurish it feels. And like, that, it's fine to be an amateur, 100%, like, everyone needs to start somewhere, but after 10 years on the same show, it doesn't even feel like I honestly feel like it doesn't even seem like they care about the show anymore. Like, I don't think they're interested in it. I would think they would much rather move on to new, greener pastures, do something interesting, something they actually have passion for. I think they lost the passion for RWBY a long while ago, and they kept it up because it kept giving them money. So, who knows? Like, that's why I feel like people are talking about, like, oh, I don't know when RWBY will end. How many more volumes do you think it'll have? Even if it gets completely greenlit moving forward, I truly don't think they'll have more than, like, 12. And 12 might even be too much, honestly. Like, they seem to be completely running on fumes. Nothing seems to be interesting to them with this world anymore. Compensating for technical limitations is supposed to lead to overcoming adversity, not making excuses. Yes, you know what? Okay, so go to, like, your favorite artist on YouTube who does, like, speed paints and whatever. I like Mariah Elizabeth. Look for just them painting whatever they want. You know, full color usage, whatever medium they want. Paint whatever they want. Versus a challenge, like a 3-color challenge, or a one-line challenge, that is so much more interesting. Like, you can watch whoever. Jazza. I love Jazza. I love his content. Watch him just paint like Bob Ross. That looks cool. That's great. But him doing, like, a weird, like upside-down challenge of painting Bob Ross, so much more fun and interesting. When you limit yourself, you have to think more critically and creatively. And so the limitation is what ends up becoming much more interesting for you to not only come up with, but for other people to engage with. And Ruby lost all that. They didn't engage with that limitation. They just changed. They change whenever they feel like it. They just, oh, this volume we're in Wonderland, so everything's really bright and saturated again all of a sudden. Okay, can we stick to an aesthetic? A look? Judgmental Critter, sorry to ask it. Did you watch that video, Let Your Good Characters Do Bad Things? That sounds so familiar. That sounds so familiar. I'm sure yes, but I don't remember. But I agree with that sentiment. Let good characters do bad things. Hey Critter, what would you say is your favorite part about character design? I think colors. Coming up with color palettes is some of the most fun. You know, seeing what matches, seeing what is then taking a character and then simplifying them to their most simplistic degree, and then reworking the character to now be better, you know? I love, you know, color theory. I think it's a lot of fun. Thinking of different shapes and sizes. That's something I don't like about, like, Hell of a Boss or Has Been Hotel or whatever, is that every character has the same shape, and I think it's very boring that way. Backing up to have good characters do bad things. There was one thing I'm a little nervous about with my, my magical girl story that I'm working on, is I have a character who is, without a doubt, not a good person. One of our main characters. There are several main girls in our team, and she is not a good person. She has, like, internal bigotry, she's full of herself, she is not a good person. But she's one of the main characters, and it's hard, it feels hard to have someone be so awful and have them still be a main character. But the thing you need to remember is, if your characters are perfect right off the bat, you have a very boring story. They need room to grow, to learn, to be better, to change, and to be better people. So if you start them off as bad people, they have a lot more room to grow to be good, better people, you know? Bunch of tea grounds at the bottom of my teacup. Gross. Thank you again, Not All That Evil. Wow, you guys, like, you guys are too nice. It's all the time. You guys are too nice. What advice would you give to making a character have good colors if you're colorblind? Ooh. That is tricky. I would say ask people who, like, to make sure you're not, like, going with colors that you don't want to go with. Ask people who can help you. Like, if you're wanting to go for a pink, but you can't see shades of pink, make sure you ask people to help. But I think more importantly, you can still do things in grayscale, and if you're black and white. Bob Ross has a great video. It was an episode of him doing the joy of painting, and someone had called in and said that they feel like they can't keep up because they are colorblind, and so he did a grayscale painting. You can do a lot of cool things with black and white and limited color. In fact, lots of times you can do really interesting and more creative things with limited color. Like, read Spy vs. Spy. Usually, the only color in Spy vs. Spy is black, white, and red, because they kill each other. I love Spy vs. Spy. Limited color is often very interesting and can lead to very beautiful moments. I think there's strength in simplicity. So I think the sky's the limit, but since I'm not colorblind, I don't know exactly the exact advice. Like, that might be bad advice, but I don't know. Do you plan on doing a redesign for any Has Been Hotel or Hell of a Boss characters? Not really. I'm gonna be honest, the fan base for Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel scare me. They seem really crazy. they seem really fanatic about their shows, and it reminds me a little too much of Rooster Teeth, where it's like it's so personable. It has a very, very in-depth relationship with its fandom, you know? People, it seems like, oh, small, humble origins getting picked up by larger companies, and I don't know, they scare me. They don't seem to take criticism very well. They seem to be hyper nitpicky also. Like, I saw someone be like, they changed Alistair's design. OMG, how could they? And it's like they just changed the collar of his jacket to be from, like, red to black. You know, it was so minor. And I'm like, I don't know, you guys are scary. Judgmental tea grounds, I know. It's because I brew tea in my coffee pot. Like, rather than have, like, the coffee filter, I just throw my tea bags in there. And sometimes, depending on the tea bags, they'll just, like, burst a little, and you get all these grainy ground crap in the bottom. Ugh. I would recommend using a color palette generator. Oh, yes, that can also work a lot. There's a lot of tools online that work with that. There was one... God, I don't remember. What are those things called? Vision boards? The one where you, like, have basically, like a picture of other pictures that inspire you. That's a good way to go about it. Something that didn't make sense to me until very recently, actually, was vision boards. I believe that's what it's called, because I was like, oh, I get it. like a compilation of things that inspire you? Good stuff. Do I know Peppa Pig? I know of her, yeah. I saw that clip with Ray Narvaez Jr., where, like, Peppa Pig, he was playing a game, and Peppa Pig and the Queen was splashing in mud, and then it was, like, in memoriam of the Queen of England. This is wacky. How do you do grayscale? It's not as easy as it sounds, but it's also not as hard as it sounds. Just, like, look at comics. Look at manga panels, specifically. They tend to all be in black and white, with maybe some details of texture. That's like the way, it's thinking about thickness of lines and depth of darkness. It's a whole conversation could be had about just grayscale. It's like Ruby fandom squared. Okay, that's what I thought. There are some things, like, I also don't, like, Owl House looks right up my alley. It's about witches, or whatever, like, cute magical girls going on cool fantasy adventures. Seems like right up my alley, you know? But its fandom scares me. And I'm afraid. And I don't want to watch it because the fandom scares me. That's the thing. When people, like, you can try to separate a show from its fandom. And you can, for some degree, you know? But inevitably, you're going to engage with a fandom in some way. And a bad fandom can 100% kill off a good show. Or a good series, you know? Like... Sin City is a great example, Cinesloth. Yes, beautiful, great, amazing. Elijah Wood's in that movie. That's wacky. Ew, I hate drinking liquids or eating something soft and I feel a crunch. I know. You know what I hate? I hate this. It's when you're eating, like, a burger and then, like a bit of bone or whatever it is, cartilage or something, got in the hamburger, and then it has that, like, hard texture when you bite into it. That will make me immediately stop eating. No. Peppa Pig versus Ruby Rose. Peppa Pig is, like, 8 feet tall. Or something like that. Have you looked that up? Like, go to Google and look up how tall is Peppa Pig. It's, like, 6 or 7 feet or something. The only crunch in drinks I'll accept is ice. Even then, I hate ice. I've always hated ice. It makes my teeth too cold. I don't like the way it feels as it, like, hits my mouth as I'm trying to get my beverage inside of me. It just waters down whenever I'm drinking. I hate ice, and I never understood it. And everyone's always like, here, I'll put ice in it for you. And I'm like, great, you ruined it. My lemonade sucks now. Yeah, I never liked chewing ice either. My grandfather used to do it all the time. And so every time I think about chewing ice, I just think about my grandfather just with his not great teeth anymore, just crunching on ice. Because drinking water was too boring. What's your thoughts on versus themes in general, like hope versus despair, emotion versus logic, and do you think this could have improved RWBY? Yes, 100%. I'll give you my favorite example, and that is Batman and Joker, which is comedy versus tragedy. Batman is born in tragedy and death, and he is a very grim, dour person, and tragedy follows him around. The Joker is comedy, because obviously. And I think it is a very interesting dynamic, especially with villains, especially with rivals like Joker versus Batman, and that's how you have really good iconic duos. I think 100% RWBY could have done something like that. The problem is, no one in the heroes team is defined enough to have an interesting rival dynamic that wouldn't feel like surface level, other than good versus bad, And the worst thing is, they had 4 members, at least, in Salem's Council. And there are so many theories and ways you can think of to have Team RWBY be rivals thematically with Watts, Hazel, Tyrion, and Cinder, But they didn't do anything with any of them, and I don't, why did we have so many villains? This is something I talked about on Twitter earlier this week. They have no villains anymore. Yeah, fist versus feet with Yang versus Mercury. That's like the closest thing, and even then, they have nothing else beyond that. like I talked about it on Twitter, they have no villains anymore. It's just Salem and Cinder, who are going to be our 2 final bosses at the end, we can tell. And then there's Tyrion and Mercury, and that's it. And I think Mercury might become a good guy, and Tyrion might go the way of Watts and Hazel, which is dead, usually by the hands of the other villains. Thank you, Adaman. It's nice to see you again. Hey, Crater, love your work, but still a little salty over your Vic comment. Have you not heard him as Broly? I have. It's just the same as... I'm sorry. I just don't like it that much. It's fine. I'm gonna be honest. Dragon Ball Abridged did Broly better, I just don't... I think Vic has, only 1 or 2 voices he can do, and he's not been impressing me in a long while. I feel like Ruby and the Happy Huntresses would have also been good parallels. That's another thing. They introduced so many characters. And it's we could do something interesting. Here's the Happy Huntresses and the Aesops. Maybe they won't be parallels to Team RWBY, but they could be parallels to each other. Since they're on the opposite sides of this weird Ironwood battle. But no! Half of the Aesops don't do jack shit, and most of the Happy Huntresses don't do anything either, and I guarantee you the only reason May Marigold got as much screen time standing next to Team RWBY as she did was because people were upset that they had to, confirm through Twitter that May was a trans character. And they're like, why can't she just be a character in the show? Why does this have to be, this non-person who gets 3 lines of dialogue is our first trans character? That's not much worth celebrating. And so they're like, quickly, have her do things with Team RWBY in the next volume, so then we can insist that, yeah, she's a real character. Yeah, she's not just a background character like all of our other forms of representation for LGBTQIA plus characters. The Cinder Show. No other villain counts. Sorry, Neo. Oh yeah, Neo. She's gonna die. Without a doubt. People want her to be a good guy. She is definitely gonna die here in Ever After, or whatever it's called. She's not gonna make it. This is gonna be final boss time for Neo. Without a doubt. I guarantee it. I have a character I've been wanting to redesign. They have a big green 10 on their chest. I don't want to keep it on there. So what could I do to keep the feel without having the actual symbols? That's tough. 10 is so specific. It could just be something that invokes the kind of idea of it. Maybe a plant or a flower, It could just be shapes. Rather than the 1 and the 0, it could be a very tall triangle shape and then maybe just a square. And then, a dash through the middle of it. I suggest looking at clothes on characters in video games where they don't have numbers on them, like Animal Crossing. Look at Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing does have clothes with numbers on them, but they also have a lot of things that is just like shapes. And try to just thinking abstract about it if you can't think of something specific to put it on there, like a plant or an animal to represent the idea, but not be just numbers. Thank you so much, Stereotype. Nice seeing you around. Well, I've been afraid of changing because I've built my life around you. Stevie Nicks summarizes toxic fandoms. You're not wrong. Whenever we need, Stevie Nicks is always there. What a good song, too. What a good, nice one. Nice. Nice reference there, Stereotype. Clover could have been a trans character, or Robin. So many probably have been. You know what? I remember back, a lot of people thought Tyrion was going to be trans, but nope. And I think the thing is, like, yeah, it reminds me of the discussion of, like, I saw this video on TikTok recently, and it was talking about how they made changes to the Eternals, the Marvel characters, where now, I don't remember any of their names, Festus or Phoebes or whatever his name was, he's gay, but they also changed the, like, relationship dynamic between the, like main girl, and she was with someone, but now the person she is with was changed to be another girl, but rather than have them be gay, she changed her relationship to some other guy, so now we have double up straight relationships, and it was just like, yeah, anyone could have been, like, but of course, you designed your characters, and then you thought, oh, well, we should have representation, because people keep getting mad at us that we insist we're gonna have it, but they're keeping background characters or in supplemental stories only. So we're gonna pick this girl. Like a random person in the background. That's our trans character. It can't be one of the main characters we made. One of the ones who actually get screen time. It has to be this background character, you know? Roman numeral 10, yeah. That's an interesting idea. Neo needs to be out of the show. I used to love her when she was just a compliment to Roman, not a bad fan service character. I agree. The worst thing is she had nothing to begin with because she was mute, and Rooster Teeth doesn't know how to develop a character if they can't just word vomit their backstory. And Neo, it's like when you watch, like, there's Sonic and Tails. You know, Sonic the Hedgehog and Tails the Fox. Versus just Tails. Like, Tails is fine. He's a fine character. But he's definitely more interesting when he's with Sonic, you know? Neo seems to... And the thing is, like, she has interesting powers, but they also seem to really struggle with choreographing her powers. So whatever. Shield's gonna get rid of her already, you know? With all of the no villains we have... And Neo can't even, like, help. Crow X Winter? I don't think that's bad. I don't know what their age gap is. I would imagine, like, 5 years. I think Crow isn't as old as everyone thought he was. You know? To be fair, the first trans character being a serial killer in a full death cult would be a bad move. Which one you talking about? Which one's the serial killer in a full death cult? Is it Tyrion? Was he in a death cult? I didn't read. I didn't double check. But I like Tyrion. Tyrion's cool. And I think that stigma of, like, because they wanted, Pilot Boy in Volume 5, the one who pilots the airship for Weiss. They wanted a thing where he was going to be like, something, my husband, something, and they wanted to imply that he was gay, but then they sat there and thought, we can't have our first openly gay character be this guy who's breaking the law then dies. It's like, no, we can, like, gay characters, LGBT characters can just be characters, you know? It is Tyrion, thanks. I was like, that doesn't sound like Robin. like, any character can be an LGBT character, and when you bend over backwards to try to make them perfect characters, quote unquote, like, they can't have flaws, then you are making your character in a way that it's not a bad stigma that you're stapling to them, but you are implying, like, they can't be considered the same as non-LGBT characters because we don't want... How do I word this? If you don't treat them the same way you treat your non-LGBT characters, then you're still othering them, you know? And that involves, like, oh, we can't have any bad guys be LGBT. Because then you're still othering them. Because you're not treating them the same way you would treat your non-LGBT characters. Does that make sense? I hope I worded that right. Thank you again, Anton. Well, I definitely haven't been procrastinating at work. Back to the grind. Hope the rest of the stream goes well, everyone. Be sure to give it a like. Thank you. Yes. Listen to the wise words of Anton. And like this video. I don't know if the likes help with a stream. I would imagine so. Just burying your gaze. I know. Rooster Teeth. Ugh. Do you remember Penny's teammate, CL? Yeah, I remember. She was so interesting. She had such an interesting idea. Like, an interesting gimmick of, being, like, really... She seemed more like a robot than Penny did, you know? Like, she had, like, very strict, militant, on the number, you know, time type deal. And I thought she was really cool. Just another background character to throw into the pile of characters we insisted on creating and introducing, but did nothing with. Because it's more fun to come up with new characters than actually do anything with the characters that we have that we think are boring and dumb. And you can definitely tell they think Team Ruby are boring. That's why Team Ruby never gets to do anything. Because they don't like Team Ruby. They don't want to do anything with Team Ruby. And because they don't ever want to do anything with Team Ruby, they don't become more interesting, so they stay boring. Judgmental, how do I word this so I don't attract those weirdos, critter? Thank you. Well, I think those weirdos would find something to bitch about no matter what. Oh my god, like Lilith Farron. I try not to, like, engage with her, because she's such a worthless person. But I did have that thought where I saw the clip of Jean saving the day and being this, like, time skip person. Hello, Miss Mayhaps. I saw this thing of Jean doing that, and I was like, I thought of Lilith, whose, like, only critique was, you say Jean and Weiss instead of Weiss and Jean. And I'm like, surely, Lilith, who thinks anytime a male character does anything is pandering to male characters and male audiences, would have a problem with Jean running in, saving the day, being special. But no, if you... apparently just over there simping for Jean as hard as possible. Being like, it's the best thing ever. It's a perfect show. It's not bad. Jean is amazing. And then she looks at my pre-write where I say Jean and Weiss every now and then. It's like, you're catering to the male characters and you're making them do everything. Whatever. That's how you can tell, like, what a disingenuous person. When people do that kind of thing, that kind of hypocrisy of, you're bad for doing something, but the show I like is perfectly fine, even though they've done the same exact thing. You know, they're just a disingenuous person. They're just saying things for the sake of getting into arguments, you know? So, I try to avoid them as much as possible. To be honest, the best way with balancing that is having LGBT characters all over and on all sides. Yes. Yes. 100%. Like, they're all just people too. Oh, ew! There's also grounds in the bottom of my coffee cup. Grounds in the bottom of all my cups. Boo. The thirst for Jean is real. I know. It's so cringy coming from Lilith too. Thank you so much, M3D, or it might be Med, depending on if you pronounce the Leith speak, or not. Bro, why was Blake fawning over the Rusted Knight? I know, like, I don't know much. Apparently Blake knows the fairy tale they're in, and whatever, but, like, I don't... It's so weird. I don't know, like, that seems weird. Like, does he so... It would make more sense, this whole thing of Blake being in love with the story of Alex, and OMG, my favorite character ever, the Rusted Knight. It would make more sense if this was a story that had ever been referenced ever before in the history of the show, you know? Like, no one has talked about this story. This was not even a thing ever mentioned. Like, is it the girl that fell through the world? Is that what it is? We referenced it once 2 years ago, and it was Oscar talking to Ozpin. If, like, that's the type of thing, like, if this was something Blake had talked about and alluded to often, that would be really cool and interesting. And this would actually be a really interesting volume, because it'd be like seeing this thing this character had been so inspired by finally coming to life would be really cool. But, whoops, we forgot to do that. We didn't think about it until just now. So we're just gonna pretend like this was a thing Blake really cared about all the while. Fawning, I get it. Well done, Cinesloth. Thanks, Excalibur. I was thinking alt-right weirdos, but Lilith works. Oh, that's true. I mean, she basically is. She has, like, the same, like, talking points as alt-right weirdos. Like, no, you said something. I didn't say that. Yes, you did. I insist you did. Like, maybe instead of the man with 2 souls or whatever. I know. That's such a weird thing about RWBY's storytelling and development, is they'll, like, have things. They will have things that's, like, in the show. Like, like, the story of the man with 2 souls. But then they'll just come up with new things. They won't use the things they came up with. They just insist on coming up with new things. No, I don't understand. It's like, have they never written a story before? You know? It's like imagine if, like, classic story. Little Red Riding Hood goes into the woods. She meets the wolf. OMG, the wolf is bad. The wolf runs and gets Grandma. Suddenly, some other person comes in and tells Red Riding Hood about this deer in the forest. And now that we're going to the deer, Grandma needs to fight the wolf, and now Grandma isn't Grandma anymore. We changed that between volumes. It's just so weird. Like, they don't follow their own story paths. It's so backwards. The writer's just casually pretending like the last time Blake expressed an interest in fairy tales wasn't all the way back in volume 1. I know, right? It seems so reactionary. Like, the writers hear mild criticism of, like, I miss when a character did blank. And they're like, oh my god! We forgot to do that for 9 years. Let's bring it back up. That's what the people want. It's like, no, you don't get to do that. You don't get to just act like it's been around the whole time. I haven't watched the new season yet, but I think it'd be cool if Alex from the book she was reading when RWBY meets her officially. I don't know, I guess that'd be neat. Yeah, I agree. The girl who fell through the world being brought up before this season would require the writers to plan something ahead. Yeah, they never do that. Who's Lilith Farron? Don't bother. So she's just a horrible, angry troll who hates everybody. Hates anybody who says anything about RWBY, but is obsessed with RWBY. But I also don't think she watches RWBY. like she admitted that she doesn't actually watch the show. She just, like, looks at fan art or something like that. Imagine if Penny came back for the 3rd time. Ugh. I can't believe that is such an ass backwards thing. Who thought? Penny's gone. Let's bring her back. And kill her off immediately. What was the point? What did we gain? What did we grow? Story-wise, developmental-wise, that we didn't already have after she passed away the first time. The thing was, they forgot to actually write RWBY to be sad after Penny died the first time, so now she has to be sad this time, because they forgot to do it the first time. So, that's why they did it, because they made, instead, RWBY sat there and was only sad about Pyrrha constantly, and then they forgot about Penny, and then they're like, ah, I see, let's just do it again, because we fucked up the first time. I know, it's so, ugh. To be fair, Shrek is the fairy tales versus characters based on fairy tales. Shrek is the fairy tales versus characters based on fairy tales. Huh. I never thought about it like that. Oh no, Penny died. So anyways, for reals. They seem so disinterested with the things they set up. I just don't get it. And it's not like it's like different writers coming in and changing things. Usually when you hear about these things, it's because new people come onto a project and starts fiddling with things and changing things around, it's been the same two dudes the whole damn time. And I always hate people being like, oh, well, because Monty, back in the day, Monty was writing things. Monty. No, he wasn't. They were very open and honest. Monty was not a writer. He was a creative lead, but also was very much vocal about how uninterested he was in the writing process. It was just Miles and Carrie. They've been the one writing it the whole damn time. How they can be so uninterested in their own stories. I don't want Penny to die for a third time. I don't blame you. I fucking, jeez Louise. It's because Ruby peaked in Volume 3, and they keep trying to, bring back things from Volume 3. That was the one where they had the most views, the highest praise, that's where they got the most money. So, now they just, keep bringing up things from Volume 3, but because they just are stuck on repeat, that means the show isn't getting anything interesting beyond that. That's why all their spin-offs and manga and comics and whatever are mostly from volumes 1 through 3, because that's where the show was actually successful. Church from Red vs. Blue showed more emotion when Caboose died? I know, right? Ruby peaked in high school, for real. Critter, I'm letting you decide. Should I get cheese or meat lovers pizza? Cheese. Get cheese, because cheese is more customizable. Meat lovers is fine, but oftentimes it can be too meaty and feel very one note. If you get cheese, you can put different sauces on it yourself. So then you save money, and also, it lets you explore different flavors if you want to put other things on top of it as well. So go ahead and get cheese. I like cheese. It's also nice going vegetarian every now and then, you know? I saw a theory that little is Penny. No. No, I hope not. No, Excalibur. Do not get meat. Wrong. Cheese is the way. Cheese all the way. I'm not even a fan of meat lovers to begin with. If it was cheese versus pepperoni, I might lean more towards pepperoni. Meat lovers just tends to be, very greasy, you know? Very, very, very samey in flavor. Cheese just has more potential, you know? The writers forgot Volume 3, got Volume 1 and 2 in order, and got prepared for 3? I guess. I don't know, man. Big brain critter. I do my best. Come for me for your pizza conundrums. There are good vegetarian foods. There's a lot of great vegetarian foods. I was vegetarian for a month. Sometimes I still opt for the vegetarian options. I like veggie foods. Meat can be a lot. Meat can be tasty. I'm gonna have corned beef for dinner today. But, yeah, I think vegetarian is not only refreshing, but also it lets you be a bit more creative, because you have to figure out how you're gonna do it differently without including meat, but you're still getting all your protein. I really hope Neo is still mute. I know. Oh my god. That seems like something so up their alley. They've, completely fumbled their disabilities in Ruby. And it seems something they would totally do. Just have her start talking. Most important question ever. Bone-in or boneless wings? Real talk, boneless, 100%. I hate bone-in wings. I hate it. I hate trying to, break apart the stupid bones to get the meat on the inside. I feel like I get much messier with bone-in wings, and that's my secret. I hate being messy. I hate being sticky. I hate having stuff on my face. I hate having stuff on my hands. And with bone-in, it is so much messier, and it's so much easier to clean up with boneless, you know? I get better bites, and I get more meat this way. And yeah, it's basically just like a really big chicken nugget, but I'd rather have that than get messy. So that's what I do. I hate being messy. I hate being sticky. Writers don't even pay for their own website to do research on their own show. I know. I know. Alright, I think I've babbled on long enough. Has there ever been characters that can talk but just choose not to? I think so. There's a term for it. selectively mute? I feel like yes, but I can't think of any. Other than, like, Big Macintosh from My Little Pony. I think there are other options, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. Not in Ruby. Definitely nothing in Ruby. Aside from Ironwood's semblance, disabilities could be supplemented with prosthetics. Seem to be a non-issue aside from maintenance. It's just that every time they do a prosthetic thing with Ruby, it's always presented like, oh, Ironwood, he lost his other human arm because he's not as human anymore. And it's like, you're fucked up. That's fucked up. That's bad. And now here's Yang in this volume being like, ha 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 ha, let's use my prosthetic like it's a toy. Ha 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 ha. It's like a Cheese Louise for sure. Black Bolt, I guess that's true. that is a selectively mute person. Hello, Chet2530. Pokemon Red? Oh yeah! I guess he could be selectively mute. Boneless wings are puss puss baby mode? Yes, Messiah. Yes, it is. And I'm the puss puss baby. I hate being sticky. There's this great picture my mother took when me and my sister, we were like infants, babies, our 1-year birthday. Our grandmother, like, handed us cake for us to eat with our hands. Because we're babies. And just a pile of cake. And both of us are upset because neither of us want to get our hands sticky. Even as babies, I hated it. Even when I was a baby, I hated being gross and sticky and having crap on me. Mario doesn't talk? I guess he doesn't talk a lot, yeah. I guess there's not much to say. At least when Monty was alive, you could tell there was passion behind Ruby. Nowadays, it feels like RT is doing it out of obligation, since it's the only thing keeping them afloat. Yes. And even back then, with Monty being alive, I feel like it was also slipping. Like, it was slowly going from a passion product to a product, like a monetary, this is a business, and that's gonna suck the fun out of anything, you know? It not always will just lose all of its heart, but I definitely think if Monty had lived, I don't think he would have stuck around with Rooster Teeth. Definitely not this long. I think he would have gone off and started making his own, like, crowd-funded Kickstarter thing on his own, and I don't think he would have stuck with Rooster Teeth. But I have no idea I can't tell for sure. I did not know the man. I will not pretend I knew him. But, note to all writers in chat, if you write something, remember you wrote it. Acknowledge your own writing. It's written. You can cheat off your own writing and try to find out what you want to do. Yes. Well said, Sinislav. I think the jokes about Yang's arm would be fine if it wasn't for her being sad and traumatized about it. That's another thing. They keep trying to go, like, back and forth on it. Like, sometimes Yang is like, this was a thing, it was a part of me, I've lost this was hard, my eyes flare up red, it wasn't easy, I've struggled, blah blah blah, my hand shakes fighting Adam, whatever, blah blah blah. And then the other half of the time, they're like, ha 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 ha, I'm using it to take selfies, ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha. You know, they keep going back and forth on it. I don't know. It's just, like, if they picked one, like, it's fine to have a character who is not, like, traumatized by having a prosthetic, like, but every time they do, they just go back and forth on it, depending on what a random thing they want the characters to do in a scene. I love how YouTube highlights my username for me whenever Nep is in a sentence. Does it really? The jokes would be even good, probably, if Yang did them. If she uses awkward humor to deal with it. Just let Yang do the arm jokes. It's like, yeah. Like, or make it be a thing like she clearly... I don't know. They go back and forth. The characters change willy-nilly, just depending on whatever the scene needs of them. Oh, is Ruby going to be a fun, happy person? She's a fun, happy person. Oh, do we need her to be a moody, broody, sad? Suddenly she's moody, broody, sad. Like, it does not matter. They just change them whatever they need to fit a certain scene, to let a specific thing happen. And usually it's a contrived thing to just arbitrarily push them towards the end. And something I'm thinking about... This volume is just another travel volume. It's just the same thing as like Volume 4 and Volume 5 and Volume 6. It's just another travel volume, only now they're traveling in the fairy tale. It's so... Why do they keep doing travel volumes? It's so boring. It's basically just, look at this tour. Let's do a tour guide map of these things we thought of. Here's this city, and here's this next city that looks exactly the same as the first city, but maybe one thing is kind of different. And here's the next one. All the cities look exactly the same as each other, but they'll all have one specific gimmick. It's just so, like, there's nothing, traveling arcs is so tough because there's nothing for your characters to do other than move forward, and having anything that stops their forward path is usually just a worthless distraction. Like, even Avatar: The Last Airbender didn't get away with it, you know? In the first book of Avatar, book Water, they could do it, because it was a goofy, fun misadventures along their way to their destination. But even starting as early as the second book, with Earth, they were stopping for longer periods of time, like at Ba Sing Se, and, you know, other things that they were doing. Like, just traveling. If you're going to travel, something interesting needs to happen each episode. There needs to be a whole beginning, middle, end. A whole conflict with a resolution, a climax and a resolution within that one episode, because otherwise it's just wandering forward aimlessly. It's not easy writing traveling arcs, and they keep doing it with Ruby, and I don't know why they keep doing it. Ruby has become that one Lord of the Rings joke in Clerks 2. You're not wrong. So, alright, I think I'm gonna have to wrap things up. I got things to get to. I'm editing My Little Pony Season 1 video. That should be done later this week. I've edited the first 10 minutes of it, and it's 30 minutes long, so should we have that done within the next few days, if I get going on it. Thanks everyone for jumping in, and all your super chats are so lovely, so nice. Thanks for having a part of the conversation, you know? I had a lot of fun. I always love streaming, so check out the VODs if you missed some of it, or whatever. Be safe. The weather's going kind of crazy where I'm at, so I assume it's doing stuff. You know, spring is happening. Doggos need walking. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, you're right. Make sure you stay hydrated, drink lots of water, make sure there's no gross tea grounds at the bottom of your teacups. So yeah, I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.